Ever wonder what the oldest building is in your state? This is where we'll talk about it. We're starting a new series discovering the oldest buildings in America that are still standing today. For this video, we're talking about the Wyckoff House. If you have a suggestion for your own state, comment below. Before we get into it, make sure you like and subscribe for more lazy historian videos. The oldest building in New York, the Wyckoff House. The Wyckoff House was estimated to be built before 1641. The house is one of the oldest surviving examples of a Dutch frame house in America, and it was one of the first structures built by settlers on Long Island. The majority of the current structure was added in 19th century, with the small kitchen section dating back to the 18th century. It's located in Brooklyn, New York. In fact, it's the oldest building in New York City too. Today, it is now a museum. It preserves the house and the history of it. It was first ordered to be built by New Netherland General Walter van Twiller before being used by Pieter Claesen Wyckoff, an illiterate Dutch indentured farm laborer who arrived from the Netherlands. The one-room home began with nothing more than a packed earth floor, an open hearth, and doors at both ends. Pieter and his wife Grete raised 11 children in this small wooden house. Wow, that's a lot of kids. Pieter was born in Norden in Lower Saxony, which is now Germany. Not much is known about him before arriving in the New World. In 1636, when Pieter was a young teenager, he left Texel, which is near Amsterdam, on the Dutch ship Rensselaerwyck. There were 38 passengers on board, many of whom were signed as indentured laborers or contract farmers to a wealthy Dutch diamond merchant named Kilian van Rensselaer. The trip was rough and took 6 months. At the age of 16, Pieter arrived in what is now New York as he journeyed to America alone as an indentured laborer. Many immigrants in the 17th and 18th centuries came to the New World in such a way as indentured servants or contract laborers. Many of them were under the age of 18. Some came with their families and were set out to their stations upon arrival. Others made the treacherous crossing by themselves. New York at the time was a small settlement. They spent the next few weeks in New Amsterdam waiting for the Hudson River to thaw before they could continue upriver to Fort Orange. The area was filled with all sorts of people, not only the Dutch. You had English ships, Native Americans trading, and even some possible African slaves at the time in that area. It was a lot of people and a lot of stuff going on. The estate, also known as Rensselaerwyck, stretched for about 9 miles along both sides of the river, for the fort and inland a distance described as 2 days' journey. Simon Wallischen was a master farmer and a leaseholder with Van Rensselaer. He was favored by being given his choice of the laborers on the boat, and he chose Pieter. As master, Simon would have total control of Pieter's life for the next 6 years. In addition to Pieter, there may have been other laborers assigned to Simon also. Pieter stayed with Simon until the age of 18. Then he collected his wages, a total of 375 guilders for 6 years, and left to rent his own farm on the Rensselaerwyck estate. He married Grete van Ness, the daughter of a prominent family, and later the two moved possibly to a location near New Amsterdam, or elsewhere on the lower Manhattan Island. In 1652, Pieter signed a contract to superintend the bowery and cattle of Pieter Stuyvesant, I believe I said that right, in New Amersfoort, which was a West India Company owned tract, and Pieter and Grete moved to what is now known as the Wyckoff Homestead and Farm, the oldest structure in New York City and a historic national landmark. A small settlement called New Amersfoort centered a couple miles to the southwest that had been started about 20 years earlier as a farming community, which had about a total of 15 settlers when Pieter moved in. It is situated on land that New Netherland General Wouter van Twiller purchased from the Lenape natives in approximately 1636. The house was one of several that Van Twiller ordered to be built before he was recalled to the Netherlands by 1640. It is estimated to have been built before 1641. Pieter Claesen Wyckoff's family moved in around 1652. Pieter was very known and influential as he bought land, served as magistrate, and helped establish the Flatlands Dutch Reformed Church, now the juncture of Flatbush Avenue and King's Highway. He adopted the invented name Wyckoff when the British took over New Amsterdam. Pieter died in 1694 and today has more than 50,000 descendants. Insane. Most Americans with the last name Wyckoff are descendants of Pieter, believe it or not. Some famous ones you might know, or probably should, are the Wright brothers, fathers of aviation that flew the first successful airplane. The Wyckoff House is an example of farmhouse architecture of the Dutch-American farms of Brooklyn and Queens. Generations of Wyckoffs enlarged and altered the house and continued to farm the land until 1901. That's not too long ago. By the mid-20th century, the house had faded into obscurity, even spending part of its life disguised as a gas station storage shed. It was rediscovered and rescued in 1937 by Wyckoff family descendants who bought it to save it from demolition. Wyckoff descendants established the Wyckoff House and Association in 1937 and repurchased its house from its last private owner in 1961. In 1965, the house became the first structure to be designated as a New York City landmark. The association donated the house to the city of New York in 1969. Despite surviving a fire in the late 1970s, the house was fully restored in the early 1980s and then opened to the public in 1982 as a museum. Today, it stands as one of the last and oldest examples of a Dutch salt box frame house in America. So that is the history of the Wyckoff House. So the Wyckoff House is the oldest house, or not even the oldest house, but the oldest structure in New York and New York City. Wow, amazing. Have you yourself ever visited a Wyckoff House? Are you one of the Americans that are a descendant of the Wyckoffs? Comment below, because that is a lot of people. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Comment below video suggestions on what I should talk about next. Thanks for watching.